Sorry, guys. So yeah, I'm Alina. I'm actually not of VFX or any movie production, though listening to all the previous speakers today, I think we actually got a lot in common. So yeah, the next couple of minutes, I'll be talking about perception of interoperability. Interoperability is basically what I live and breathe. And yeah, so a little bit about myself. Should I do it manually? Yeah, so I actually have two hats. I'm an XR researcher and project manager for 3D Interactive. We are an XR spatial computing content creation studio based outside of Stockholm, Sweden. And just to give you a quick idea of what we do, yeah, we do a lot of big world-scale location-based XR experiences. For instance, that was a location-based geofenced Easter egg hunt that we do. We actually work with a lot of film producers, movie studios, actually going beyond screen and sort of doing the story living aspect. For instance, on the previous one, we worked with the Sami Film Institute for the Venice Film Festival. And then also with the great use of LiDAR and BIM, we actually LiDAR scanned whole old town of Stockholm. So we have a 360,000 square meter sort of test bed for our projects. We do a lot of, we tend to be well known for doing purposeful location-based AR stuff. As you can see, there's about the context, how to guide the user. Yeah. But I'm not here to talk about this. I'm here to actually talk about Open Air Cloud. So I'm part of Open Air Cloud. We are a global nonprofit. I founded Open Air Cloud Europe 2020. We are a nonprofit. So we produce decentralized open source alternatives to proprietary solutions. So the Global Association founded each other 2018. With the emergence of new technologies. And also this is where I come in and where you guys come in is actually due to the convergence of processes, industries, production processes, co-creation and collaboration cross industry and cross departments is getting more and more important. So I see a lot of similarities between our work, and this is actually where interoperability comes in. So, yeah, especially when we are going beyond and actually starting to sort of paint the world with data, here open and decentralized alternatives to proprietary solutions are getting way more important, especially for real-time experiences. Nowadays, we actually have to search for virtual content in the physical world, but imagine wearables getting more cheaper, the devices getting more better. It's just a matter of time that we walk around with wearables and that we are actually painting the world with data. And this is also where interoperability, but also various levels of interoperability come in. And we are here talking about this is sort of the layer of spatial web. Real time, I mean talking really real time. We are still not there yet. The computing is not there yet. Also, real-time streaming is not there yet, especially for big projects. It's partially on device, partially on the cloud or edge. Also, with the support of 5G and 6G, computing power gets better, devices get better, and we are actually possible to do this. And this is where we need to collaborate. Yeah, obviously, AI is influencing all our production processes. We just heard earlier, Source. We have at Tribeca videos that are already, movies that are already produced by AI, but it's just another tool. It's how we embed it into our projects and how we are working with it. Imagine you're actually able to be part of a TV show. Actually be part of the content. This is where story living comes in. You actually imagine in a couple of years, you actually be part to edit, you become part of the narrative. And this is already something where XR already today, especially in location-based AR projects, this becomes a reality. But what about the convergence of technologies, production processes, and data formats? So what we're currently living in due to the convergence of technologies and actually working within XR, we're the best industry to visualize that, because on a daily basis, we have AI, we have to make sure that we are sustainable with 3D content based on multiple output devices. Is it for HMD, low poly? Data formats, BIM, LiDAR data with 3D data. We currently have a lot of silos. The problem is, how do we get them interoperable? Interoperable not only from a data format, but also way more complex. Interoperability is also making sure that data formats are shared, that actually you communicate with them, that how can we make sure that we actually build the bridges? Because this is where standards come in. And there are already a lot of standards out there. We have OBJs, we have FBX, but the problem is with the convergence of technologies, standards that up until now worked parallel, they are convergence and they need to work interoperable. One good example is LiDAR data and 3D data. From a production process, it's a pain in the ass. It's not yet working. So how can we make sure that we build up on existing standards while we are converging? And this is also a problem when you look into existing. This is the other part. You shouldn't create a standard just for the sake of a standard. But the problem is, there's also a fragmentation of knowledge. The problem is that most of the standards bodies that are actually out there are also not interoperable. The problem is also its theory. They create a standard, but it's the theory. How it then gets applied, that's the other aspect. So it's also how you create standards that they are then used by us. That's the other problem, and this is a big source. I mean, we have to see OpenUSD, they have quite a challenge the next 3 years. It looks promising. Then there are other initiatives like the Metaverse Standards Forum, OGC, to tie in. We're, as a nonprofit, we're not a standards body, but we used OGC, the Open Geospatial Consortium, to actually create the first GeoPost. It's a universal spatial anchoring standard that yet didn't exist. So also, how can you sort of build up on existing standards due to the convergence, so we are actually converting processes on a seamless level? It's a big challenge. But we are currently working on an EU-funded project called XR for Human, where we are working on R&D on an ethical, spatial, legal, and also interoperability perspective. We've done a mapping of the current state of interoperability within XR and spatial computing. It's fragmented, as you saw the islands. But interoperability is also way more complex. So it goes beyond data formats. It goes beyond production processes. So that's why we came up with this sort of 3 pillars as a result. Interoperability doesn't end with a data format. Also, how then to be interoperable with policymaker, with legal, with privacy. We are, by converging in this new era of computing, we are also starting with new challenges. I mean, technology has always been a double-edged sword, in a way. So what about IP? If you create a digital twin, you have one physical world, but you end up with multiple digital replicas. What about IP? What about data ownership? But also, what about virtual identity? We spend a lot of days and time already in virtual worlds. How to transfer assets between those. Those are new emerging risks and also challenges. And that's where also from an interoperability perspective, we need to go beyond data formats. We need to also pin out flaws and not existing interoperability between policy about data ownership. And also, let's not forget about the user, the ethical side of things. So that is currently part of our EU project. We are currently working actually on an interoperability tool that guides various stakeholders and also policymakers to let them know the current state of interoperability of standards, where the links are missing, and this will gonna be launched by the end of the year. On the other side, we are working on XR for Human on a universal code of conduct, policy guidelines, all the potential new risks that we are faced in. And that's the other part. At the end, it's 3D data and the output device. So it's also about, to come back to my previous speaker, being sustainable also from a data perspective. Low poly, high poly based on various output devices. Yeah, and just to end the note, we also had a couple of other previous small EU-funded project that was with OpenAI Cloud. We are actually working on an open spatial computing platform with GeoPost, the GeoPost protocol. Everything that we are building, all the technology, the technology components that any one of you can build up on is open source. That's really important for us as a nonprofit. That was a small sort of transatlantic funded project where we worked together with George Mason University and Rutgers University on a project. We have various components. So we have an open source web client, and we also have an open source Unity client, where also, I go back because we were actually demoing this 2 years ago in ISMA. Here comes in, we actually worked with Cosmos. Cosmos is an open 5G cloud edge network testbed. What we've done, we actually reference tested the Unity client, placing a 3D asset and then logging out and logging back in with our Aurora web client and the asset. So you could, with both devices, detect the new placed asset. In the physical world, it's also consistent So if you come back, you will still see the fox. We will also, those were sort of reference testing of the technology that we've built in the small sort of funded EU project. One of the other parts is also visual positioning systems. The problem with current proprietary visual positioning systems is they're using a lot of proprietary data for the localization of the camera. So all your data is stored on their server. So we've actually created a small little open source solution. The other big thing is, and we are currently actually trying to allocate additional funding to further develop this solution and bring it in a state where it's actually usable for third parties. We are working on an open source VPS. The current proprietary solutions, the problem is when you're reliant on proprietary VPSs, visual positioning systems, once the company makes an update, all your localization is crashed. So we've used a small little funded project to actually kickstart together with George Mason University an open source VPS. It's currently not in a state yet to be used by third parties, but we are quite optimistic to further allocate additional funding. Yeah, that's most of it.